about warrior replication prerequisites, and then we already we discussed about snapshot replication working architecture, or we can call it a working procedure. We configure and we test it. So all the things we completed in yesterday class. So in today class, we are going to discuss about other two replication types. Those are transaction replication and snapshot replication. Okay, so when it comes to the snapshot replication is an occasional data transfer based on the snapshot agent schedule. So whenever snapshot agent is running, that time only the data will be replicated from publisher to subscriber. So this is the snapshot replication working architecture. So whenever snapshot agent is running, so generally when you configure a snapshot replication, two agents are created. So one is snapshot agent and the second one is the distributor agent. Whenever snapshot agent is running, that time all the data will capture from publisher DB and it will place into subscribe repo folder, and distributor agent will transfer the data from repo folder to subscriber. Alright, this is the snapshot replication working architecture. So in today's class, we will discuss about transactional replication. So transaction replication definition is that continuous data transfer. It's not depend on the any schedule. Whatever changes happen at publisher, those changes will automatically replicate to the subscriber without any manual intervention for running the jobs or scheduling. Automatically, automatically the data will replicate it to the subscriber server. So this is a transaction replication definition. So transaction replication means the data will continuously transfer whatever data modified at publisher, those data automatically continuously transfer to the subscriber with the help of the agents. So that is the definition of the transaction replication. When it comes to the prerequisites, again, so whatever prerequisites we require for snapshot replication, we require all prerequisites for transaction replication. Apart from those, we require the one important prerequisite is that whatever table we want to add into the transaction replication, those tables must have primary key. Okay, so what is primary key, how it is functioning, all the things we'll discuss in troubleshooting topic. So just here understand, note that, so when you want to add a table in transaction replication, the table must have primary key. If the table doesn't have primary key, we cannot add the table into the transaction replication. Okay, here our role is that, so generally primary key is created by the development team. So when you get a request for adding a table in transaction replication, our role is that we need to verify whether table has primary key or not. If table has primary key, we can directly add into the transaction replication. If table doesn't have primary key, we have to inform to the requester we cannot add this table into transaction replication because it requires uh, primary key to add into the transaction replication. So that way we can communicate it with them, and once created, then we can add the table into the transaction replication. Okay, our role is that we need to verify whether table has primary key or not. So that we'll cover it in later. Okay, so that's mean, so when it comes to the transaction replication prerequisites, minimum we require the two servers, and distributor database we need to create, and we require the distributor database, and we require the network folder. The folder should access by the publisher and then subscriber, agent service accounts, and the next one is that, so I mean the same collision settings, same medicine, same versions are preferable. Even those are different, it will allow us to configure the replication. Right? And agent services must run on all the servers which are participating in a replication. So these are the prerequisites. And when it comes to the transaction replication, the table must have primary key. If the table doesn't have primary key, we cannot add the table in transaction replication. Okay, so very important interview question. So what are the main prerequisites for transaction replication? When you get this question, then we have to tell it the table, whatever table you want, I mean whatever table we want to add into the transaction, those table must have primary key. So that is the one of the major main prerequisites for transaction replication. right? So we are clear about the transaction replication definition and prerequisites. Now we have to come to the working architecture, working procedure, how transaction replication will work. So as I said yesterday, whenever you configure any replication, so replication, based on the replication, agents will be created. Agents are very similar to jobs. Through agents, log data will transfer from publisher to subscriber. And when it comes to the transaction replication, when you configure transaction replication, three agents will create it. Okay, so those agents are, the first one is the snapshot agent. The second one is the log read agent. And the third one is that distributor agent. So these are the agents are created when you select, when you configure transaction replication. Okay, now comes to the servers, like we are using the same. We have a one server at Hyderabad, one server at Bangalore, one at Pune, and so we need to configure transactional replication between either server. Hyderabad server, Hyderabad database, we have a sample Bangalore database. We have a two servers, two databases. And when it comes to the configuration, first we need to configure the distribution database, right? So then after that, we need to configure publisher, and then we have to configure subscriber. That is the configuration process. So we already configure a distribution database yesterday for snapshot replication. So no need to create a separate distributor. Single distributor, we can use it for multiple configurations, multiple configurations. No need to configure every time a distribution database. We can use single distributor for multiple replication configuration. Whether it is a homogeneous or heterogeneous, a single distribution database is enough. If you want, you can create, but usually you can go with the one distributor for multiple replications. Okay, so we already configured the distributor. Now we have a distributor database. So the distributor database we can create in a separate server. Either we can create a publisher, we can create it as a subscriber. Any server you can create the distribution database, or we can also use a separate server for distribution. So generally people prefer to configure either publisher or subscriber. They don't prefer to use the separate server for distribution, right? So in our yesterday we created a distribution database at publisher, so we can use the same distributed database for transaction replication. Okay, and we require the network folder. We can use the default folder, or we can also create give our views, we can our own uh, folder if you want. So here I just want to hold the default folder, right? We have all the prerequisites to configure. Okay, once you configure the transactional replication, so three agents will create it, right? So one is the snapshot agent. So what snapshot agent will do? So whenever snapshot agent runs, so it will capture all the data from publisher and it will place into the repl folder. Generally in transaction replication, for data initialization, we are using the snapshot agent. Okay, when you configuring the transaction replication, for initializing all the data, we will enable to run the snapshot during the configuration. So what the snapshot agent will capture all the data from publisher and it will place into the repl folder, and then after that distributor agent will send the data to the subscriber. Okay, so that means so it is completed the initialization process. After that, log read agent. The log read agent is continuously running and it will capture all the changes from publisher and it will give to the distributor. Whatever changes happen at the publisher, those changes will track by the log read agent and it will send to the distributor agent. Distributor database. So then after that, distributor agent will send those changes from distributor database to distribution database to subscriber database. It is a continuous process. Oh, that's mean when you configure transaction replication for initializing the data, we'll enable the snapshot, and the snapshot is mainly using for initializing the data. So when enable the snapshot run during the configuration, it will take all the data from the publisher and it will place into the repl folder, and distributor agent will send the data to the subscriber. So that is the one time. So once initialize all the data from publisher to subscriber, then after that once the subscriber so this is the working procedure, and it is a continuous one directional data process. Again, it is not a bi-directional. Whatever changes you done at publisher, those changes will transfer to the subscriber, but not subscriber to publisher. And there is no restrictions on the subscriber. So based on your permissions, you can do all kind of operation at subscriber. There are there are no changes at. I mean, there is no restrictions based on your permission. You can do all kind of operation. But if you do any changes at subscriber, those changes will not replicated to the publisher. So that's mean transaction replication is a one directional continuous data transfer. So yesterday we discussed about snapshot replication. Snapshot replication is a occasional data transfer. If you want to transfer the data from publisher to subscriber on occasionally, like once in a day, or maybe weekly once or monthly once, for a specific period of time, if you want to send, then the best solution is snapshot replication. If you want to send the data on continuous basis, then transaction replication is important, is the suitable, right? So this is the transactional replication working architecture. So the one important question is that what are the agents are involving transaction replication? What are those agents roles, and how the transaction replication is working? So these two different type of questions you might get in interview point of view, right? So that's about the transaction replication working architecture. If we're clear about the prerequisites and then architecture and then definition, then we'll move to the configuration part. Okay. When it comes to the configuration, again here I want to use Node 1 server, Node 2 server. In Node 1, I have SQL plot server, and Node 2, I have a DR server, DR SQL server. So we'll configure transaction replication between these two servers. For that, let me create an empty database. Tangible, that's the database name. This database I want to use it for transaction replication configuration. It's an empty database. Let me create two tables. So for understanding the primary key value, so what I will do, I'll create two tables, one table with primary key, one table without primary key. Okay. So don't worry about in real-time environment, we are not responsible for creating any table. We are not responsible for creating any primary key. So those are taken care of by the app team or development team. Only for demo purpose, I'm creating two tables here. Int primary key. I'm using primary key on S number. S name varchar 20. I'm creating it to one table tab one with two columns, S number and S name, and on S number I'm using primary key. Insert into tab one. So simply definition for primary key is that primary key doesn't allow the duplicate value. So in performance tuning classes, when you're discussing about indexes, that I will discuss more about the primary key. Primary key means it doesn't allow the null values, doesn't allow the duplicate data. Okay. So 101 ABC. Okay, so here we created tab one with primary key. I'm creating a new table the tab 2, this table I'm creating without primary key. Okay, so this table, sorry, yeah, so this table doesn't have primary key, so it will accept the duplicate data 102, 103. Okay, if you insert the duplicate data in tab 1 won't accept. We already inserted the 101 record. Right, if you're trying to insert this record, we'll get an error. Violation of primary key constraint PK cannot insert the duplicate keys in object. That's mean if the table has primary key, it doesn't allow us to insert the duplicate data. 101 record already inserted. If you're trying to insert the same record, it won't accept. Okay, clear? So now our role is that, for example, customer is saying that that's mean the app team or development team is saying that um, please add tab 1 and tab 2 in transaction replication. When we get this question, first thing we have, what we need to do, we need to verify whether tables have primary key or not. For verifying that, we can go to keys, and here we can see that PK. PK means primary key. You can also use custom string, but if you want to check manually, go to the tables, go to keys, there we don't see any primary key. If table has primary key, under keys tab we can see primary key PK information. PK means that's the primary key. Okay, so we cannot add tab 2 in transaction replication, so we have to inform to the development team that this table cannot be added into the transaction replication because it doesn't have primary key. The transaction replication needs primary key to add a table in transaction replication. So when they created, then the time after creating the primary key and tab 2, then only we can add it. Okay, right. So that means we have a requirement to configure transaction replication on tab 1. We cannot add to tab 2. So we'll configure transaction replication between node 1 server and node 2 for in the tab 1, that is in Ripple database. Right. So, and we have a distribution already. We configured the distribution yesterday, so we can use the same database to we can use it for transactional replication. No need to create a separate distribution database. Okay, so distribution is completed. The next one is we need to configure publication. For that, go to replication and select the local publications, new publication, click next, and we have to select the database name, that is Ripple, and here we have to select the type of database, type of replication. I'm using transactional replication. And so here we have to select the table. So here we can see two tables, tab 1 and tab 2, but and here we can see that some symbol with the red symbol, that means it is saying that this table cannot be published because it doesn't have primary key column. Primary key columns are required for all tables in transactional publication. That means this table we cannot add. Okay, and we can only add tab 1. Select the tab 1, click next, click next. Create snapshot immediately and keep the snapshot available to initialize subscription. So we have to select this option to initialize the data. Okay, and click next. And we need to provide the security for 3 agents. So when you're configuring publications, we have to provide the security to these 2 agents. Here we can see checkbox, use the security settings from the snapshot agent. So whatever security we provided to the agent, snapshot agent, the same security will applicable for the local resident. So here selecting the second option, run under the SQL Server agent service account. Okay. So both using the same security context, and click next, and we need to specify the publication name. Transfer. And the final step is click finish. Selecting the database, selecting the type of replication, selecting the objects, providing the agent security, and enable the snapshot to initializing the data, and the remaining we have to follow next steps, and then final step is click finish. Very simple to configure replication. So click close. So once you configure the publication, here we can see that transable. Okay, so once configure that publication, then we need to go to the subscriber server. There we need to configure subscription, local subscriptions, new subscription. Click next and select the publisher server. Publisher server name is Node1 Prod. Click connect, and here we can see the list of all publications which are presented in the Node1 server. So we have to select the right publication, that is TransPub. Click next again. So this is the common, so you have to select the options so where the jobs needs to run. When you select the first option, that is called push subscriptions, so all the agents run at the distributor. In our case it is at Node1 prod server. So run each agent at its subscription. That's the second option. I'm selecting the first option. Any option is fine. Click next, and here we have to specify the subscription database. Database already exists in the subscriber server. In the drop down box we can select the database name. The database doesn't exist, then we have to we have to select the new database, and you click that one, so it will get this window. Here we can specify the database name, Ripple report, and click OK. Okay, so subscription database we selected. Click next, and here we need to provide the distribution as a security. Click this button and select the second option and click OK, and click next. And the distributed agent is run continuously. If you want, you can run on demand, and we can also define the schedule. The default is run continuously. Again, we can go with the default setting. Click next, and initialize subscriptions immediately. After completing the configuration, it will initialize the data immediately. And click next, and click finish. So selecting the publication server, selecting the right publication, selecting the subscriber, and providing the distributor agent security. So these are the important steps we have to update for configuring subscriptions. Close it. Okay. Now we configure transactional replication. Right. Now we'll see that if you want to monitor replication, you can go to the right click on the replication tab, go to launch replication monitor, and here we can see the status. Here we can see the status. Okay. When status is okay, good, or critical, that's when when it is okay and good, then the replication is working properly and good, and it is in good condition. And when the third status is that performance critical, that's mean when the network is slow, or maybe it requires some resources, the time maybe we can see the performance critical. But the configuration is healthy. And failed and error. So when these two status, when you see that, we require some manual intervention to uh, bring the replication back to the normal mode. Here we can see that now both replications are working with the OK status. Run replication. Here distributor agent, this is the distributor agent, it is continuously running. And agent, snapshot agent is running, mainly we are using for initializing the data. And again, logred agent is also continuously running. Okay, now we'll see that as per transaction replication process, whatever data we are updated at publisher, the data automatically transferred to the subscriber. We'll see that whether the process is working properly or not. So for that, what we'll do that, we'll insert a new record in tab 1 and we'll see that. Select start from. So there we can see only 101 and ABC record. Now run the same command at subscriber. Okay, you can see the same record. Now we'll insert the new record. Insert into tab 1, values 1 or 2. Now inserted the new record 1 or 2 at publisher DB. We can see the 2 records. Run the same command at the subscriber. We can see 1 or 2 CDC. That means whatever data we are updated at publisher, the data will automatically transfer to the subscriber. It is an internal process. Okay. So what will happen here? The log agent will capture the 1 or 2 and CDC records information, and it will place into the distributed database. In this distribution database, we have mainly 2 tables: MS REPL commands and REPL trans. So the data will place into these 2 tables, and distributor agent will capture the data from a distribution database and send to the subscriber. Right? So that's the way the transaction replication will work. Okay? Again, if you do any changes at subscriber, those changes will not replicated to the subscriber or publisher. Okay. Let me try to do that demo as well. So this server is subscriber, and I'm inserting the new record tab 1, values 1 or 3. Here we can see that SDF. So we inserted it subscriber, but we look into this publisher, the data will not come to the publisher. That means it is a one directional, that too from publisher to subscriber, not subscriber to publisher. Clear? So that is the transaction replication. So we configure transaction replication and it is working properly. Right. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to ask. If you don't have anything, then we can move to the third configuration, that is merge replication. Okay. So merge replication means bidirectional data changes, continuous and bidirectional data changes. The snapshot replication is an occasional one directional data transfer, and transaction replication continuous one directional data transfer. The merge replication means continuous bidirectional data changes. Whatever changes you done at publisher, those changes will also apply into the subscriber. Again, if you do any changes at subscriber, those will also apply on publisher DB. So where your requirement to modify data on both the servers and replicate it and updated each other, then the best solution is merge replication. Okay, but it required the more resources, especially the network, because for transferring the data from publisher to subscriber, subscriber to publisher, so we have to ensure to use enough network bandwidth for merge replication. Okay, now we'll see the how to configure and how to configure the merge replication. The definition is that merge replication is a continuous data transfer from publisher to subscriber as well as from subscriber to publisher. Okay, that is the definition of merge replication. And when it comes to the prerequisites, there is no special prerequisite for merge replication. Whatever prerequisites we can use it for snapshot replication, all we can use it for merge replication. So we don't require like special prerequisites for like transaction replication. The table must have primary key kind of thing. We don't require any kind of prerequisites. So the same prerequisites me for merge replication means two servers with the same configuration, same medicine, same version or preferable, and agent services must be running on the both the servers, and we require the network folder that should be accessed by publisher DB agent service account as well as subscriber DB agent service account. Right? So these are the prerequisites. Even if it is database in simple recovery model or bulk logged or full recovery, irrespective of the type of recovery model, it will allow us to configure a replication. And it is a bidirectional. So when it comes to the merge replication, when you configure merge replication, two agents will create. One is that merge agent, and the second one is the snapshot agent. Snapshot agent we are using for data initialization. Once data initialization is completed, and then after that, merge agent is continuously running, and it will transfer the changes from publisher to subscriber, subscriber to publisher. Directly it will update the changes between publisher and subscriber. That is the working background working procedure. Okay, let's configure the merge replication. After that we'll understand more about merge replication. So for that, again I want to use two servers, node 1 server and node 2 server. Node 1 I want to use it as a publisher, node 2 I want to use it as a subscriber. So let me create a new empty database, that is so let me create two tables here. But int primary, I'm creating two tables again, with one table with primary key and second table without primary key. But merge replication doesn't require primary key. Even if it has or not, we can add those tables in transaction merge replication. The second table we are creating without primary key. Here we can see the tab 1 and tab 2. So our requirement is that these two tables we need to add in merge replication. Okay, So as I said that we can use the single distribution database for multiple configurations. Again, I'm skipping to configure a separate distribution. So I want to use the existing distribution database for merge replication. Okay. So we have a requirement to configure merge replication between Node 1 server to Node 2 server for MergeDB tables. Okay. So already we configured distribution. We can use the existing one. So after that, we have to go to local publication, new publication, click next, and here we have to select the database name, click next, select the merge replication. So transaction replication and peer-to-peer replication. So it is an advanced concept of peer-to-peer replication. Even I haven't worked on that, so I don't have much knowledge on peer-to-peer replication. Okay. Select the merge replication type and click next. And we can go with the default SQL Server 2008 or later. So that is the compatibility things. Just go with the default one, click next. And here we have to select the table. Here we can select both tables because there are no special requirements like have table having primary key or kind of thing. Table as primary key or not having primary key, we can create. We can add the tables in merge replication. Selecting the tables, click next, and here we can see that unique identified columns will be added to the tables. That means there is a conflict, like the merge replication process is that whatever changes you are doing at publisher, the same data will update it at subscriber. Whatever changes you are doing at subscriber, the same will update it at publisher, right? So bi-directional or maybe vice versa condition, it is applicable. There might be chances of a conflict in the data because we are executing the one-at-one record at publisher. The same data you are trying to update at publisher, the same data is also updated at the subscriber. There might be conflict for data storing in the table. To controlling this kind of conflict, so when you configure merge replication on whatever tables you want to configure merge replication, on those table, one unique identifier column will automatically added. So this will controlling the conflict of data storage between publisher and subscriber. Right? So unique identifier column will be added to the tables to control the conflicts of data transfer or maybe data storage. Click next. Click next. So that's the reason it doesn't require the primary key. The tables which you want to add into the merge replication, those don't require the uh, primary key. You can schedule it. So just to enable the create a snapshot immediately to initializing the data. Click next. Specify the security for the snapshot agent. Select the second option. Click OK. Click next. Click next. And specify the publication name. Selecting tables. Selecting the database. Selecting the type of merge replication. Select just go the default of setting. Selecting the tables. Just go the default. Providing the security. And final one is that specifying the name for publication. Merge and click finish. That's it. So we configure merge publication. Now go to the subscriber server and we need to configure subscription. New subscriptions. Click next. Selecting the publication. Publication is node to dr. Sorry, publication is node 1 prod. You can see all the list of available publications in Node 1 prod. Select the right publication and select the where you want to run the agents. So here I'm selecting the first option. So that's mean run all agents at the distributor. So all agents run at Node 1 prod server. Again, here we have to select the subscription database. If database is already created, we have to select the database name. If not, we have to create a new database. New database name is we can give it. Selecting the subscription database, click next. And here we have to provide the merge agent security. So when you configuring publication, we provide the security for snapshot agent. Here we have to provide the security for merge agent. Selecting the second option, click OK. Next. Yeah. So here distributor agent. There is a distributor agent also. So distributor agent here we can see that run on demand. So you can change to run continuously. Okay. So distributor agent role is that like merge agent will take the data from publisher and it will go to the distributor, and distributor agent will transfer the data to the subscriber. Like it will work like a mediator between publisher and subscriber. Click next, and data initialization immediately, and just go with the default. No need to change anything here. Click next and click finish. And close it. So we configure subscription. Now we need to verify whether merge replication is working properly or not. So we can also use the replication monitor to verifying the replication process status. Here we can see all the status is good, and that's mean it is indicating that the replication is working properly. So now let's have a demo to see whether changes is happening on both the servers, like publisher to subscriber, subscriber to publisher or not. So for that, what we'll do that we'll insert a new record. Okay. Select start from. Here we can see that so row identifier column will automatically add tables which are participating in merge replication. Here we can see S number, S name, and a row identifier. This is the unique identifier to controlling the conflict, and it is in it take the it's automatic value. Okay, and this value is unique. It should not be the same. Okay, now insert a new value here into tab 1 values 102 CDC. Here, so when inserting the data from application, so no need to give the row ID column. Automatically it will generate it. But when you're inserting manually, you have to specify the year value. One I'm giving. So the value should be unique. But don't worry about, so when the data is coming from application, so no need to specify the unique identifier value. It will automatically generate it. So 102 record inserted here. Okay. Now run the same command at subscriber. Let's report. takes time. Let's wait some time because the process is very slow in merge replication because validating the conflict and then coming to the data. So that's mean we inserted the one or two record at publisher and record updated at publisher. Here we can see the two record now. Run the second. Yeah. Now it's by it's I mean the record we can see on node to server. Okay, that means the data is replicated to the subscriber from publisher to subscriber. Now what we'll do that we'll insert the new record at subscriber. We are in node to server and node to DL work like a subscriber. Here I'm inserting the third value 103 and I'm changing the value. Okay, now subscriber has three values. Now we'll see that this data is replicated to the subscriber or not, publisher or not. Sorry. Yeah, it will take some time. So just wait 1 or 2 minutes time. So here we can see that 103. The record is replicated to the subscriber. Sorry, publisher from subscriber to publisher. Right. So that means the merge replication process working. Snapshot is a occasional data transfer, one directional. Transaction replication is a continuous data transfer, again from one directional from publisher to subscriber. Merge replication is a bidirectional and continuous data transfer. So whatever based on your requirement, or we can select the one of the replication type. Right? I hope you understand the concepts of three replication types: snapshot, transaction replication, and merge replication. If you're clear about it, then we'll see the how to add new tables to the existing replication. So in our demos, like we added only one table, one or two tables. Maybe sometimes what happens in real-time environment. So maybe after some time creating the replication, they'll create new tables and they will ask us to add those tables into existing replication. Then we'll see that how to add new tables in existing replication or removing tables from existing replication. Okay. Before moving to that, there was one important entry question. That is, let me close this one. Launch replication method. Because there's all replication types not updated. Okay. In transaction replication, there is a option tracer tokens. So we have to click the insert tracer. When you click the insert tracer, so here we can see the latency information from publisher to distributor, or distributor to subscriber, and total latency. So this is very useful for identifying the performance conditions between publisher to subscriber. Here we can see that publisher to distributor it is taking 0.5 seconds and distributor to subscriber it is taking 0.3 seconds and total latency is 0.8 seconds. Okay, so for using this tracer token, we can see that where the latency is high, where publisher to distributor or distributor to subscriber, what is the total latency, right? So this information we can see that the question would be, so how we can identify the latency information for a transaction application? So using tracer token. So tracer token is the option which you can find in replication monitor. Using the tracer tokens, we can find the latency between publisher to subscriber. We can also use the use DMVs and other commands to get the information. But if you want to get this information using the replication monitor, we can use tracer tokens. Okay. So now back to the adding new tables to the existing replication. Go to database. We'll use the transaction replication. Let me create a new table. Primary key required for transaction replication. We're creating tab 3. Create table. Tab 3 is primary key. Okay, so we created table 3 with primary key, and then our requirement is that tab 3 needs to add in existing publication. Okay, for doing this one, we can do through commands. We can also do using GUI method. So go to replication. On which publication you want to add, go to that publication. So here I want to add it in tran publication. Go to properties and go to articles, and here we have to uncheck. So by default it is enabled, only whatever tables are added in existing replication, those only we can see that. If we uncheck all available tables, all available tables in database, we can see it here. So here we need to add tab 3. Select the tab 3 and click OK. That's it. So that's the way we can add. So we added the tab 3, table 3, existing publication. But until run the snapshot, the table will not replicate it to the subscriber. Whenever you add a new table, to move the table to the subscriber, we need to run this snapshot. Here we can see only tab 1 table that was added previously, right? So let me open the replication monitor and run the snapshot agent. Select the replication type agents. Here we can run. That means, so as I said, the snapshot mainly we are using in transactional replication and merge replication for initializing the data. Okay, so it's running. Here we can see that 69% is completed. 100% of 2 articles were generated. Here, what we need to note it here, whenever snapshot is running, snapshot is taking the data from all the tables, not only newly created table. Okay, so here we can see that 100% completed as snapshot of 2 articles was generated, not a 1 article. So we added new article, 1 table, but when run the snapshot is taking the data for all the articles from publisher, and it will replicate. It will send to the subscriber. Okay. So now verify the subscriber database. Refresh. Here we can see tab 3. After adding the table at subscriber, whatever changes we are doing at publisher on tab 3, those changes will automatically replicate to the subscriber table tab 3. Okay, so there was a question, that is how we can. So for example, you might get question in entry point, how to add a new table to existing replication. You can say that we have to go to the publication properties, and then we have to click the right articles which are in the top right side, and then after that we have to select the table which you want to add it, and then after that we have to click OK. Then after that we need to run the snapshot. So that's it, those are the steps we need to follow to add a table to existing replication. So when you say this answer, they might ask that, like when you run the snapshot, it will generate the table, it will generate the snapshot for all the tables. But I don't want to run the snapshot for all the tables. I want to run the snapshot for only newly created table, because I have the 10 tables, each table size is more than 100 GB, and newly added article table size is only 1 GB. But for adding 1 GB table, to existing application, we need to run this snapshot for all 10 tables, 10 plus 1, 11 tables. That means each table size is 100 GB, more than 1000 GB data needs to be replicated from publisher to subscriber. It is a resource intensive process, and it is taking longer time. Is there any option which you can use to send only newly created article without running snapshot for all the existing articles? So this is the very important question. Yes, we have an option. Using that option, we can only send the newly created articles with the help of snapshot agent without generating data for all the articles. Okay, so let me open the document. Okay, so allow anonymous image transfer. So allow anonymous and immediate sync. By default, these are in true mode. We need to make them to false. Okay, allow anonymous. So we have to tell allow anonymous and immediate sync options. So when you run the snapshot is only picking the data for newly created article. It won't pick the existing articles data. Okay. SP change publication name. Here we have to specify publication name is tran pub. We'll enable these options, and we'll see whether snapshot is generating newly article or all existing articles. Tran pub anonymous true, and immediate sync publication name is tran pub. Okay. So now I'm enabling these two parameters. Now create a new table. Point to the tran table. I'm creating tab 4. We are creating tab 4 table. Now this table we need to add, but after adding, the snapshot should only generate the data for tab 4, not tab 3 and tab 1. Go to properties for adding table, click articles, which is in right side corner, and then uncheck to get the all the tables. Select the tab 4, click OK. Okay. Now run the snapshot. So previously it was generated for 2 articles. We enable the options. Now it should be run for only the 1 article. Oh, sorry. Yeah. See here, I think the value should be false. It should not be true. So here we can see that the snapshot 3 articles were generated. Sorry, I forgot that the value should be false. If it is a true, then the snapshot will allow us to generate the data for all the tables. Let me make it false. And let me create a tab file. Sorry, that value should be false, not true. Okay, we created tab 5. Now we'll add the tab 5. Article, uncheck, select the table, click OK. Now if you run this snapshot will only run for only the one article. Yeah, it's running now. Yeah, here we can see that the snapshot only running for one article, that is only newly created article, newly created, newly added table. So when you don't want to run this snapshot for all the tables, then we have to change these values to false. Okay. After adding the table, again we have to go back to the previous settings, that is true. Okay. Now let me don't run at a time too. So this is very important entry question. So how we can run? I mean, what are the parameters we need to use to not generate the data for all the existing articles by the snapshot? So we have to use allow anonymous and immediate sync. By default, these are in true mode. When you don't want to run the snapshot for all the articles, we need to make them to false. Once completed once table is added to the subscriber, again if you want to change back to the water setting, then we have to make it true and we need to execute these two commands, right? So if you want to remove a table, from existing publication, go to properties, articles. Here I want to remove this table. Just click OK, and then don't need to run the snapshot, because when adding tables only we can run it. If you don't, if you mean for removing, we don't need to run that snapshot. And go to the subscriber, and we can remove the table. So select and click delete button. Right. So that is the way we can remove the table from existing publication. Right. So that's the way we can add and remove tables. Okay, Andy. So that's for today, Andy. So tomorrow we'll continue with troubleshooting and interview question and answers, and DB replays, patching issues and troubleshooting and interview question and answers. We completed these 4 topics. Overview, prerequisites, types of configurations, type of replication, configuration, table adding and removing. So far we completed this, and tomorrow we'll discuss remaining patching and then troubleshooting and interview question answer. With tomorrow I'll complete the replication. From Monday onwards we'll move to the new topic. Clustering I will cover after completing the entire course. It needs 5 to 6 hours time. Maybe it will take 3 to 4 days, and we have to spend a lot of time on the clustering configuration. So we'll cover it later. Then we'll jump into Monday. In Monday, we'll jump into the troubleshooting. This is the final module, troubleshooting and real-time scenarios and DBA scenarios. Okay, so that's for today, Andy. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to ask. If you don't have anything, then we'll wrap up now and then we'll catch up on tomorrow, same time. Okay, document, practice, confusion, anything. Maybe if you. Okay, thank you so much. We'll catch up on tomorrow.